Hi, I'm here with my book, The Art of Believing Yourself, and I'm gonna read a short passage of it and then talk a little about it. So it's in the first chapter, Become the Master of your thoughts, and this is the inside of the book. It's a little book, and on this Become the Master of Your Thoughts, it starts. Um, How can you have control over your thoughts if it's something that doesn't belong to you? Of all the principles presented in this book, this one could be perhaps the most difficult for you to accept. After all, who would lightly and easily accept that they are not the author and owner of their own thoughts, right? I start this manual right here because this is a concept that explains a lot of our life's limitations and also that can give you some peace of mind as you understand that not everything is under your control or even is of your doing. Um, Also, first, let me say like this is my main language, natural language is Portuguese. I wrote this book first in Portuguese and this is translated to English. So my English is not that great. Um, yes, so this is very important, I feel, because it's one thing that gives a lot of even emotional pain to a lot of people because we believe in our thoughts and we believe that it's who we are, that's how we think, right? So if I'm thinking something, it's because I think that. And when we don't like what we're thinking, when we want to change it for whatever reason, because we want to think something, for instance, more positive, or we came to learn that is something that is negative for us, that will be um, damaging our life to think that way. So for whatever reason, we want to change our thoughts, and when we can't, it can be very stressful and very painful. Um, and we can't because we can't. Yes, we can choose our thoughts. We have that power, we have that choice. Actually, is the a choice that we're here to make, to choose our thoughts. But we need to understand how our thoughts happened and what type of control we have over them. Because first, our thoughts are not really our thoughts. Okay, our that thing that we say that is our thoughts, that is the thoughts are happening in our mind. And I'm even gonna talk about the ones that we know about because there's so many that we not even know about. But even the ones that we can hear, like that conversation that comes in my mind, like even let's say something negative, like something happens, and the first thought that comes to my mind is like, oh, I wish this or that would happen to that person, or I'm gonna do this and that, and immediately we hear and it's like, oh no, no, of course not, like it's not the kind of person I am, right? But again comes these thoughts and where they come from, even related to us, sometimes mean thoughts related to us, and or about things that we're going to do, already telling us that we can't, that we should give up, and all those things. The thing is, like, there's thought is energy, okay? And that energy is everywhere. Energy is everywhere. And there's the thought energy that we learned when we were young because we kept hearing that. And it could be related to us, something that was always being said to us, or that we could feel in the other person emotion towards us. So we started to learn that. We started to memorize, let's say. It's not really memory, but we started to have that kind of thoughts, like always present in us. Is something that we can easily reach. And even towards themselves, right? You, we grow up with a mother that has a kind of thoughts about life or about herself, and we learn that type of conversation, we learn that type of thoughts. So we call this belief something that our being um, kind of engraved in itself. So it's always here. It can be dormant, like it's not active, but when something related to that we give our attention, it becomes active again. So the thought shows up. Okay, so if we grow up with a person that was very angry, it's natural after. This normally tends to happen more like after we reach a certain point in our life, like after our 30s, going to 40s, because before that we have already, of course, a belief system, and we learn to be a certain way and think a certain way and think about ourselves in a certain way. And that is almost like we not even notice. It's like, it's just we are. We say that is who I am, that's how I am, that's my personality. But then after a certain age, that's when this random conversation, this random thought sometimes shows up, okay? And we're like, where is this coming from? Where is this? This is not me. This is not how I want to be. This is not how I want to respond, to think, to act. Like, why is this coming through? I want to change this, right? And yeah, like I say, like if you grew up around a person that was angry all the time, it's normal. Then, you know, a situation happens and it comes that angry thought, okay, associated with the emotion, of course. Or you know, you grew up with a person that was always very afraid and negative, pessimist, and that kind of thought shows up. Like, it's normal also, like you notice, for instance, you have kids and you say the same thing that you were hearing when you were young, and you're not even wanted to say that, you not even mean it, you not even believe it, but you just say it. It's like, why am I saying this? Like, I'm saying exactly like my mother, like my father, whatever, because you learned that kind of conversation. So that is thoughts that can be dormant in you, like that energy, but when something related activates it, it's going to be active in you. So it's going to, that kind of thought is going to be active, but it doesn't belong to you, right? It's something that you copied. It's a copy. It's something that, you know, it's just like, it's contagious. We can even say that it was contagious, but yeah, some part of that contagious bubble of thoughts, some become always a part of your personality, and some become dormant, and it's only in certain situations that they come up. Also, there's thought energy around you, okay, from the people that you live with, people that you cross in the street. Like if you spend some time, and it doesn't need to be a lot, like it doesn't need, like I was saying, your home, your work environment, but even if you go to a coffee shop, or even if you're seeing TV and you're absorbing a type of thought energy, even for just a period of time, you're gonna start to have that kind of thoughts active in you, because you're bringing them to you. So because we are a receptive mechanism, like we sometimes we think about ourselves just as this physical body, this physical life, and we are, but we are energy, and this energy is always receiving more energy and transmitting energy. So there's always this coming and going of energy, which in the first form is in the form of thought, okay? So we do have control over that, because yes, we can notice a thought and say, oh, why am I thinking this? This doesn't belong to me, let it go. But it depends of how strong, let's say, that thought is in us. My dog is starting to bark now, I'm sorry. If it's a thought that has been active in us for some time and is very, and when I say some time, it doesn't need to be like years, it's not that kind of time. It's like I start thinking and I let it go, and I let it, you know, I keep thinking it, and that energy starts to get more strong, more active in us. So as more thought we give to it, and more thoughts like it come to us, more time we spend thinking about it, the more difficult it is to stop thinking that. So it gets to a point that it becomes impossible. We cannot do anything more about it. Like, the more we try, actually it's worse, because the more we try, the more we're giving our attention, the more we're thinking about it, and the less we can. So it's important to know this, because some people feel really bad about themselves because they think that they should be able to do it. They should be able to not think about certain things. They feel guilty. Sometimes even they hate themselves. They feel like they're failing. They think the others can, right? It's always like that. People think, oh yeah, the others say they can, or I believe they can. And you know what? Nobody has that type of control, because it really depends how active that energy is in us. And when it's really active, we can't just say, I'm not going to think about that. So the first thing is, when we become aware of a thought that just comes and is still like simple and easy, nothing that we're still attached to it, like we can just say, oh no, I'm not going to think about that, and we just stop thinking about that, or we start thinking in another way. Like for instance, I'm outside, it starts to get cold, some wind, and my thought comes like, oh, I'm gonna be sick, and I immediately notice, and I'm like, oh no, why am I saying I'm gonna be sick? No, I'm not. I never get sick. Why would I get sick? I don't get sick from being cold outside. Like, that doesn't happen to me, blah blah blah. And you change the conversation, right? But if it's, for instance, that kind of thought that you normally have and you really believe it, and you have that first thought, and then you start to feel cold, and it's like, oh my God, I'm going to get sick. Like, you let that conversation go. You can't stop it anymore, right? So we need to be aware of that and accept that. First thing is accept what we can control and accept what we can't, but not ever identifying with it, okay? It's not just because we're thinking. It's not just because, again, an example, I'm thinking, I hate that person, and I wish, this and that would happen to her, or I'm going to do this and that and that. It's not because I'm thinking that this thought is mine, that this thought belongs to me, that's who I am. It's not, okay? Actually, no thought belongs to us. When we are in our, let's say, pure self, that we can call our inner self, our true self, that is that energy being that is not attached to any of these physicalities, that energy is constantly open and coming and going, and it comes always from a good place, and there's nothing that really belongs to us, okay? And what it comes is always good, so it's also a way of knowing if it belongs to us or not. But that might be difficult for some people to understand and accept this, because many people believe that some people are good, some people are bad, blah blah blah. Anyway, so we can't, again, like, we have control what we have control, and we have what we don't have. So when that kind of thought is active and then we can't just stop it, we can try other things. We can try techniques like doing meditation. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. Sometimes that thought is so active that we can't not even stop for meditation to stop it. We can try to go for a walk, do something to distract ourselves. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. Like, sometimes we're in a situation, let's say we're at work, and we can't just stop what we're doing and do this exercises, these techniques. Or sometimes even we do them and we just can't, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna go to sleep and forget, and we cannot fall asleep. Or I go for a walk, but my mind doesn't leave it. Anyway, whatever way. So, but this is a way to know, like, how active something is in us or not. And the best thing we can do is not is not judge the thought, is not judge us. So accept that is this energy that is active. Just become aware, because when we do this, then we just start to observe ourselves. So it's almost like we put ourselves outside of ourselves. So we become neutral to it, and that this is the best way to help, to start to slow down that momentum and make the thought starting to go away. Because, as I said, the more attention we give, the more we want to stop it and we can't. The more attention we're giving, the bigger and bigger it gets, okay? And yeah, and from one thing goes to another, and then sometimes it ends up in a really, really bad place. So aware of the thought, aware that it doesn't belong to us, it doesn't define us. We can give it some thought, like, where is this coming from? Does this belong to me? Something that I used to hear? This is this from my mother, from my father, from people that I was just with, whatever. But not too much, okay? It's not that we want to analyze anything. It's just like, yes, to reinforce this notion that it's not mine. Is it mine? It's not mine. And even if we feel, because that's what we believe, oh, it's me, it's what I think, okay, still just observe the thought, let it be, okay? And then doing this, then we can move on to the next step, that is working on the emotion, okay? Because a thought is always connected with an emotion in our body. So a thought is always going to make us feel a certain way, right? So we're thinking something that is making us angry or worried, or this talking in the negative, of course. If it's positive, we wouldn't want to change it, right? So we're having this emotion, and normally what people do is like, they feel that emotion validating the thought and validating the truth of what is going on in their thinking, okay? So if I'm mad at something, normally the person feels this being mad as a validation that the situation is wrong, the other person is wrong, and I am right to be mad because I'm feeling mad, okay? And I'm mad because the other person is a bad person, for instance. And not realizing that we're feeling because we're having that type of thought, a thought that is condemning, judging, whatever. So we can, if we want to change the thought, if somebody doesn't want to change the thought, of course, does nothing, keep going. But if you want to, you can start to stop how you're feeling and try to feel a different way. And when you're feeling a different way, it's not about that thing, about that thought. Because like I said, when it's that kind of momentum, the thought is so strong and you can't stop it. And now you have an emotion and you want to try to change the emotion related to the thought. So yeah, I have this emotion because I'm thinking, simple example, the other person is a bad person, so I'm going to think the person is a good person. It's not going to work, right? Because the thought is strong. The more I think, the more it's going to get worse. But I can try to feel better in another way, right? So I can start to use my mind to think thoughts about things that make me feel good. I like to have a coffee, how that drinking a coffee feels like. I like, I'm sitting in this place, this is comfortable, how does it feel? I like to speak to certain person, like to my kid, to my grandson, whatever. How does that make me feel? What do I like about it? So start to think about other things, simple things that make us feel a little bit better, good, okay? And distract, but going towards the feeling, searching for the feeling is always easier if we work in ourselves through our body, okay? And in this feeling, it doesn't need to be something big, and it's better if it's not, because if it's something that we're trying to change that is very negative, we can go to emotion. Like if I'm feeling depressed, if I'm feeling really afraid and really sad, I cannot go suddenly to joy and happiness, because those thoughts and emotions are still very active in me. But I can go to a place of relax myself and bringing myself a little bit of inner peace. Even void, sometimes going to void, sometimes people sometimes are so afraid of that, but going to a void and let ourselves feel that emptiness is good, especially if we're in a really, really bad place. So just go to that empty. And then from there, go to satisfaction, go to feel okay, going to feel comfortable. So anything that helps us to get there, okay? Anything to help us to get to satisfaction, to feeling satisfied, to feel comfortable. I feel comfortable. I just had a meal. I feel good. My body feels good. I could give you here many examples, but anybody knows in their life how they are. You know, if, for instance, if your body's hurting, you cannot use your body in that way to help you. But if your body's okay, you can use like, oh, you know, I like to feel myself in my body. My body is good. I like how it feels. I like how I see it. So whatever you have that you can reach and grab to help you to feel a little bit better, even if it's, like I said, just going to a place of neutral, okay? And this will start to change your thoughts about whatever you want to change. So this is the beginning of my book. It's not all the chapters about thought in this way. Like the first one is to explain this, how thoughts happened, and how they affect us, and how the type of control we have or don't have about with them. But then the other ones is all about other aspects, and then I'll give a little more. If you like it, you can keep following for because I'll do more. I'll do more of reading and explaining a little bit about it. Also, if you want to get the book, I'll leave the link below that you can get it on Amazon. Is on paperback and also on, as ebook. And that's it for now. I hope you like it. Again, I apologize for my English. I am better than this, but it's been years since I had really a conversation in English, like speaking. Normally it's like more in my head, okay? So I'm better with English, but not like speaking. I feel it now, it doesn't flow easily. So doing these videos, I think, is going to be also very, very good for me to get my practice back and feeling a little more fluent with it. Okay.